right. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about PLAB2 structure. What are the basic things that we need to follow while we are doing like history based station, when we are dealing with history based station, what we have to do. And specifically I would like to mention the PLAB2 marking scheme, because it is very important. Although most of the time we are not giving it we are not reading it and we are not giving it any importance, although it is very important, because we should know the marking scheme and the things that we should follow while we are doing a station. I am going to cover the steps because there is quantitative and qualitative feedback which is given to you when you are getting your scorecard. I am going to cover it briefly. And after that, Dr. Annie will be covering Breaking Bad News stations with you. She will share the Breaking Bad News approach with you. So let's start. Okay. So if we are talking about PLAB, then I'm sure most of you are having idea about how many stations are there and how many telephonic stations are there. But since there are some new people as well, so I'm going to cover it briefly. In total we are having 16 stations. There are two rest stations, six telephonic stations, and recently they have introduced video consultations as well. So previously there were only telephonic stations, and your patient was not visible to you. Okay, so you were just talking on telephone, but recently they have added two video consultations as well. Apart from that, there are two combined station, one Siemens station, and seven face-to-face station. In these seven face-to-face station and two combined station, most of the time there is one teaching station, and in face-to-face station, sometime if it is prescription writing station, then it will be also there. So these are the type of station that you will be getting in your PLAB2. If you are talking about telephonic station, then in telephonic station most of the time you are having one or two Breaking Bad News station, one or two result sharing stations. Sometimes you are having a history taking station, like headache, tiredness. Okay, and sometimes you are having some kind of counseling station, like counseling about endoscopy, colonoscopy. So these are the station that you will be getting in the telephonic station, and the rest of the stations, they will be face to face most of the time. And recently, since video consultations are there, so two of the telephonic station will be will come as video consultations. It can be anything. It can be a psychiatry station, it can be normal, data gathering station, the history taking station. It's up to you, it's up to them. But since you are not having the patient with you, so you will deal it as you are dealing the telephonic station. Just you have to, check verbal non-verbal cues of your patient. You have to make the eye contact while you are talking to your patient. But you have to, obviously patient is not in front of you, so you have to invite that patient for the checkup. So you will talk about appointment in the same way you are talking about making an appointment in the telephonic station. Okay, so let's discuss the passing criteria briefly. In order to pass the station, the minimum passing criteria is to pass 10 stations, and you have to get total score as well. You have to exceed or meet the total score as well. For example, if total score is 91, you have to exceed this score along with passing 10 stations. So if you have passed 10 station but your total score is 90, then unfortunately you are not going to pass the PLAB 2. So you have to fulfill both these criteria. Sometimes some people are having some this doubt that instead of 16 station, when they are counting, there are 15 stations. So if that is the reason, so sometimes they are excluding one station. It can be because of any reason. Maybe they are not satisfied with the station, there was some technical problem, anything. So if they have excluded one station, so you will be marked now from 15 stations, and the passing criteria will also change. Like instead of 10, you have to now pass 9 stations. Okay, and the pass marks will be low for that particular day. Okay, since we are having two centers now, and that is an ambiguity that whether if there are two centers, then the passing criteria for both of these center will be the same or not. The marks and the stations will be same or not. So no, both these centers, they are working independently, and they have different sets of scenario. So if one station is having, on one side it is having 100 passing score, on the other, in the other station, in the other center, it might be 91, 92. So it works differentially. Sure, you should not be worried about the second center. You will be marked according to your own center in which you are having exam. If you are at different venue, then your marking criterias will be different for that day. When we categorize these station, then there, like I have already mentioned, there are some history based station, and there is counseling station, ethics station, teaching station, combined mannequin station, and simman station. So I have a question here. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between history taking and counseling station, and how will you know that it is not a history taking station while you are outside the cubicle? I need a quick answer, anyone please.
A counseling
Count.
station would already have the diagnosis written.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So in counseling station, we are having already diagnosis in hand. But in history taking station, if there is a complaint in the station, it is mentioned patient is coming with vomiting, patient is coming with headache. So it means that you have to follow the approach of history based station. If there is any condition mentioned in the task, like you, it is mentioning that patient is here for the review of depression, patient is here for the review of celiac disease. So it means that you have to apply counseling stations approach. And in ethics, BBN, medical error, colleagues, all these are having different approaches. So we will discuss them on some day as well. So today I'm focusing on history based station. Now I would like to discuss briefly about the assessment. There are, I'm sure everybody know that there are three things on basis of which you are assessed in your exam. In all the station, you are assessed based on data gathering, clinical management skills, and interpersonal skills. Okay, so these are the things that that will be followed in all of the exams, in all the stations in your exam. And when you will get the result, there are two types of feedback: quantitative feedback and qualitative feedback. Okay, so if you look at this, this is the example of quantitative feedback. If you can see here, the numbers are written. Okay, so the numbers in individual domains of your PLAB2, data gathering, it is written separately, clinical management skill written separately, IPS written separately. Then your total score is mentioned here. Your score to pass the station, for example, it is 8 here, and the score which was needed to pass this station is 5.48. So obviously you have passed the station, and as a comment it is written here if you have passed or not. Here this person has failed the station because his total score is 4, and the pass score needed was 5.43. So this is fail. So in this way you are going to get this quantitative feedback. And if you can see, total score is also written in each individual domain. And then in the management skill, it is written as 35. In interpersonal skills it is 44. And then this person's total score and the score needed to pass the that particular day. So specifically people who are repeater, so they are having this problem that they are unable to identify what was their shortcoming. So if you are looking at this quantitative feedback, you can look more closely at it. If you think instead of 41, if it was 28, it means that you have to work on your data gathering part, your history part, your exam, if you have mentioned examination or not, if you have mentioned investigations or not. If this score was less than 30, say it was 25, 26, so it means that you need to work more on your management skill. Since, and similarly, if IPS score is low, then you need to work on that. So if specifically the repeaters, they should be looking at their result card and they should focus on the area which is their weak point. And now let's discuss about the qualitative feedback. If you are talking about qualitative feedback, here you can see they have written station numbers, and then there is certain things like consultation, diagnosis, examination, finding issues, language. I will tell you what does it mean, why you are getting these ticks. So these ticks are not normally we are taking tick as a positive sign, but these are not positive signs here. If you have got a tick here in diagnosis, it means that the working diagnosis you made in that particular station was not appropriate. That's why you have got tick in there. So it is station 2. If I am looking at this quantitative feedback of station 2, then I can see that the that person has failed this station. What is the reason of failing this station? Diagnosis, examination, management, time management. So these were the areas that were not fulfilling the required criteria. So that was the possible reason of him failing the station. Now let's see what does it mean. What does it mean if you are getting taken consultation, like in this station he has got taken consultation. In this station, taken consultation. Issues, taken issues. So let's see what does it mean. If you are getting a tick in consultation, it means that your data gathering part, your history was not organized, your structure was shaky, or maybe it was not evidence based history taking or management plan. You have not given that. It means that, like, you are asking question after a question, and your questions are not making any sense. You are not uh, every question that you are asking from the patient, there is a reason behind it. Whether you are exploring your presenting complaint, whether you are finding some clues to make a diagnosis, whether you are looking for some risk factor in the data gathering, and so that you can in the counseling station, so that you can address the concerns of the patient and you can work on those risk factor while you are making a management plan. If you are getting a tick here in consultation, it means that maybe your history was disorganized. You have not followed the proper structure. Your structure was disorganized. That's why it is always like we always say that it doesn't matter what kind of station you are going to get in the exam. If your structure is fine, then you are going to be fine. If you know what you have to do, even if it is a new station, but you if you are following a proper structure, then you are going to be fine. You will not get a stick in consultation part. Along this structure, whatever question you are asking, they should not be irrelevant. Ask only the relevant question. For example, if we are talking about sexual history, you are dealing with someone who is having an headache. Okay, headache patient, you are asking about all the history, and during that history you have asked about sexual history, and that too in detail. Then obviously it is irrelevant for that patient. It is very private thing for that patient, and instead of that you could have invested your time on something more important. So if illogical if you are asking illogical questions, then obviously you can get taken consultation. Next thing is this issues. If you have got tick in issues part, it means that there was some verbal and non-verbal cues. There was something in patient's mind and you were unable to recognize that. You were not able to identify that. For example, you are dealing with someone who has came to you in A&E setting. Okay. For example, patient is coming with chest pain in A&E, and while you are as when patient is coming in A&E, it means that he is sick. He needs urgent treatment, and instead of focusing on the immediate treatment, which is to make him patient stable right now, observing his vitals, taking care of his pain, taking care of his PCI. If PCI time has passed, then obviously you will thrombolize. So instead of doing important things, what you are doing here is you are talking about lifestyle. smoking cessation, and if patient is not eating well, patient is obese, you are talking about these things. And if you are doing this, then you will get issue, taken issue part, because right now our job is to stabilize that patient. This patient has come with chest pain, and as a part of the management, first of all, we have to save the life of the patient. DESA, yeah, it is important because DESA is the risk factor for this patient's heart problem. But we will do it later on when we have stabilized the patient. If we have not stabilized the patient and we have started talking about DESA instead of talking about more important things, then obviously taking issues. Similarly, patient is saying, I don't want to stay in the hospital, the same patient who is coming with chest pain, and instead of addressing this issue, like what is the reason he's not wanting, he don't want to stay in the hospital, you are have ignored it, and you are talking about lifestyle, you are talking about some other things, maybe job, these kind of things, then you will get taken issues because you are unable to to identify the im- key element of that station. Okay, that was the gist of the station, you were unable to identify that. Time management. So if your time management was not proper, so you can get take care for poor time management. And in order to tackle that, what you need to do, follow the GMC bell whenever you are practicing, and follow the 8-minute bell. If it is 8 minutes, then stop and feel the pressure. Even when you are practicing, if you are stopping at 8 minutes and you are not completing the station, you will, in few days, you will get to know that my time management is poor, I have to work on. And then slowly, with the passage of time, you will learn what are the things that are extra in your station, what are the things that you can omit, so that you are covering your station in proper time. Next thing is findings. So if there is any abnormal findings in the history, in the examination, in the data gathering, in the data interpretation, it means in investigations part, and you were unable to recognize that. For example, patient is coming with vomiting. Okay, and patient is you are talking about uh, food poisoning, you are talking about hepatitis, you are talking about other DDs of vomiting, but you have not asked her 4 P's. She is a female patient. Okay, so you have missed that part, and you have mentioned all the examination and all the investigation, but you have not taken into account pregnancy. So obviously, this patient, and actually the thing was that this girl was pregnant, and that's why she was having vomiting. And if you could have asked about her HCG level, pregnancy test, then you would have got that test positive. But you, since you have not taken that thing into account, so you have missed it, and you will get taken the finding. And obviously, if you have missed the findings, you are not able to make the diagnosis. Another example, patient is coming with headache, and we know that in headaches we are having a lot of DDs. So when we are getting that data, when we are elaborating the presenting complaint, a guy, he has forgotten to ask about the site, and then he is not able to identify what kind of headache is that, because he is, first of all, he or he has forgotten to ask about the exact site. Secondly, when he has got another clue, like when he has asked, since when you are having this headache, his patient is telling him that I'm having this headache since 4 hours, but in past few days I was having headache as well, but usually it used to get better on its own. But he has missed this thing again, another clue missed. So when you are exploring more about the DDs and red flags, then he has not asked about fever and flu-like symptom, or maybe he has only asked about fever, and he has not got any flu-like symptoms. Okay, and after that, when he's talking about apart from this, he has done all the other things. He has asked all the other questions from PMH, from DESA, everything. But obviously, if you are not having any clue, you have missed these clues, then you are not able to make the diagnosis, because this specific guy, he is having sinusitis. He was having frontal headache on both sides of the head, and apart from this, he was having some uh, watering from the eye, or maybe nasal blockage. But since he was unable to understand that it can be sinusitis, so he has not asked anything about it. So in this way, he was not able to make the diagnosis. No matter how good data gathering he has done, he has missed some clues that were very obvious, and he was supposed to ask them. So obviously he will not be able to make the diagnosis. When we are talking about examination, so take an examination means that either you have missed some examination that was important for your session. For example, someone is coming with say for example um headache, say it again, and he has mentioned about vitals, he has mentioned about general physical examination, but has not mentioned about CNS examination. So obviously can get take care. Or when he was in the combined station, so he did not perform the examination properly, he did not use the instrument, so he might get take care. Okay, and then comes this diagnosis. So if he is unable to make working diagnosis or identify an appropriate range of differentials, although you are having a lot of cues, like we are talking about the same case that I was discussing, the sinusitis one, you did not ask those clues, so you missed that. You missed those clues in the first place. And then in the diagnosis part, you are unsure, but still there is a way in which you can tackle this station. You can give your possible DDs here. If you are not giving your uh, appropriate range of DDs, then obviously your diagnosis will not be proper, and you will get take. Like how the thing that is not right here, the kind of diagnosis that I am talking about in the same station. Okay, so thank you so much for answering my question. After having a chat with you, I'm really sorry I was not able to identify why you are having this headache. So I'm going to discuss with my senior, and I will tell you about the cause of the headache. And in the meantime, if you feel that your headache is getting worse, or you are feeling any fever, flu like symptom, then please get back to us. So this was not a proper way of saying the diagnosis. Can somebody give me this diagnosis in a more better way? Can somebody do that for me by talking about DDs here? Anyone?
Um, Hi, doctor.
Hi.
So we could say like, thank you so much for the information given. So from the little chat we had, I'm sorry to say that I don't know what is happening, but there are a couple of things which is running in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm thinking of since you said that you're having whatever positive history she gave, we can say that. So, and we can say like I'm thinking like it could be maybe the headache is due to you said that there is a lot of stress in your life going on now. So it may be stress tension headache, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe like any two DDs in the most two things
Yeah.
which is coming to our mind. We
Yeah.
can say
Yeah, at least give DDs. Okay, so give,
yeah,
if even if you are not sure, you are 70% sure, you are 60, even 50% sure, and you think it could be a DD here, so give it.
yeah,
And then as a take your senior cover, I'm going to discuss with my senior, and I'm going to get back to you. And you are being a safe doctor here, but at the same time you are not giving an idea that you are not having anything in your mind about this patient, and you are lacking in your
yes,
approach. So
yeah.
thank you, Doctor. What's the name? What's your name? Sorry.
Ritu, Doctor
Okay,
Ritu.
Doctor Ritu.
Thank you,
Thank you.
doctor. Yeah.
Okay, so you can say headache can be because of many reasons. I'm going to discuss with my senior, but from the chat we had, it seems to me you are having this headache because of A, B, C. Try to give 2 to 3 DDs here if you are not sure about a single possible DD. Don't give the blank statement. I'm not sure. I will discuss with my senior. At least give some DDs. Okay, and then comes the management. If you have not given the plan of the management, then you can get tick here. Plan of the management includes this. You have disclosed it properly. You have given your treatment plan, talking about further investigation, talking about referrals, medical, non medical options available for that patient. If there are any general tips, any senior involvement you are thinking, then you will talk about that. Don't forget to mention about safety netting and follow up. It doesn't mean safety netting is done at end. In the middle of the station as well, try to safety net that patient. Specifically, if you are discharging that patient, then safety net. Okay. For example, like if I'm talking about the plan of management for depression. So from the chat we had, it seems like your tiredness is because of the and you are having tiredness, you are having low mood, and you are not able to concentrate on your day to day activities. So I'm suspecting you might be having depression. I'm going to discuss with my senior, and we have some medical and non medical options available for you. In the meantime, we will start you on non medical options first. And if they are not helping, then we can give you some antidepressants as well. We might need to arrange a referral for you to the specialist within 2 week time. And also there are some general tips for you I'm going to share with you, like you can have some healthy lifestyle, um, uh, having healthy diet, well balanced diet, and doing proper physical activity will improve your mood. And also you can join some local sport groups, some online groups. At the same time you can have something, some healthy hobbies. It will boost your mood as well. You can go for swimming, book reading, yoga, meditation, it's up to you. And then but at the same time, if you feel that your symptoms are not improving or they are getting worse, your mood is getting low, or by any chance if you feel like you want to hurt yourself or anyone else, please use this crisis card or call 999, and we will be in regular follow up with you as well. So this was the management plan I gave, and it has included all these steps of management. I have told about safety netting, follow ups, and the plan of management. And after that, after giving the plan, you can let the patient ask you something else. If he is not asking you, then it's up to you if you want to cover anything from the management in detail. Next are three things, and these are very important for your IPS. Repo. If you are having tick in repo, it means that you are unable to show empathy, sympathy to the patient. Your station was not patient centered. Maybe you are talking to someone who just lost her husband, and you are just like talking like a robot. Your voice was monotonous. You are not showing enough empathy. You are not showing enough expressions. You are not concerned about her coping, and you are just talking about the possible treatment options. And if she has lost her husband, she is having depression. You are just talking about possible treatment options for depression, but as a person, she needs some more support as well, your reassurance, your emotional support, and some other counseling. Like, yeah, obviously, we are going to tackle her depression, but along with that, maybe she needs bereavement counseling. She is finding it really difficult to cope up with all the things. She is not having anyone else. So you have to, address these issues as well. If you are just, missing these things, you are not making a good rapport with the patient, and you can get take care. uh, even like sometimes we are saying I'm sorry, okay, and then you are going to ask about next question. You are saying sorry, or other stock phrases. I know there are a lot of them. I can't imagine what you have been through. I'm really sorry uh, for your loss, or things like that. But we are, along with saying that, try to show with your voice and your body language that you are really feeling sorry for that patient. Otherwise it's just like a robot who is talking. So if you are just saying the things and you are not letting your patient feel that you are also feeling empathy for this patient, you are thinking like you are in his own, you should think like you are in your patient's shoes, and then act accordingly. How you would like to be treated if you were at his place, think like that, and then talk to your patient. and show enough empathy, enough support, and at the end, giving your management plan, don't forget to ask about agreement to your management plan. Are you happy to follow this plan? Maybe you have given the plan, but your patient wants something else. He is not happy to follow the plan. For example, you are talking to someone who is having who is there for alcohol cessation, right? And you have been talking about non-medical option, but actually that guy is having some withdrawal effects. He has already tried quitting alcohol, but at that time he could not do that because he was having severe withdrawal effect. And you have given your non-medical options. At the end, you have not asked him if there is anything else in his mind. Maybe if you would have asked him, he would have told you that I have been through this once, and because of the severe withdrawal effect, I was not able to continue my alcohol cessation. So obviously you have missed that clue, and it is not best treatment for your patient, because your patient wants you to want you to give him some medication. It is not patient centered. Okay, so seek the agreement as well. Then comes this listening part. Listening means that when you are talking to the patient, you have missed some verbal non-verbal cues here. You were not actively listening to that patient. Not verbal and non-verbal cues, maybe patient is not looking at you, he is not making eye contact. So if you think patient is not making eye contact, or he is conscious, he is anxious, so ask. If he is saying anything, and like, this feeling has ruined my life, this thing is very difficult for me, and it has spoiled my life, maybe, then explore it a little bit more. You have said this, what do you mean by that? Is there anything that is bothering you? Okay, this is verbal cue, but non-verbal cue is by body language. Maybe patient is fidgeting, maybe patient is not making eye contact. Then acknowledge that and address it accordingly. Active listening. What do you mean by we mean by active listening? You have asked, tell me about your headache, and patient has told you the story. So doctor, actually I'm having this headache for past 4 hours, but previously as well, in past few days I used to have headache, and uh, I used to take paracetamol, but this headache used to improve with paracetamol, but this time it's not improving. So while I have given you this story, I have told you about a lot of things here. I have told you about the onset. I have told you about the thing, that anything that is making it worse or not, or better. Not, I mean, anything making it better. I told you that paracetamol is not working. Have you tried anything? I have told you the answer of this thing as well. So still, if you are asking me about these things, it means that you are not actively listening, and you are repeating the same questions. Similarly, at some point, when you have asked me, are you exposed to sun? So I have told you, yes doctor, I am a beach guard, so I have been exposed to sun. And again, later in the conversation, you are asking me, so so what do you do for a living? All the patient has already told you. So if it means that you were not actively listening. And sometimes in the middle of the station, they are telling you some cues here, some concerns here. Okay, i'm really worried I'm really worried about this particular thing, and you have not picked that clue in the management, because if he is worried about a particular thing, then as a doctor, it's your job to acknowledge it and then address that concern, but you have missed that. Then you will get tick here in listening part. Then comes this language. Language means that you are using very difficult language for that patient. You are very speaking maybe very fast, and your patient is unable to follow you. You are using medical jargons, you are using some difficult terminologies, and you are not checking your patient's understanding. I'm telling my patient, you might be having seborrheic keratosis, and we are this is not something serious, and we are not treating you right now. So in the future, if you think it's getting bigger in size, please talk